Hey everybody. So after my last video of the battle of the cream sodas, I decided that I would continue with the Sprite and vanilla liqueur. Tastes much better than the other one, which was A&W root beer and butterscotch. The butterscotch on its own is really good. I haven't done any shots. I'm sticking with these. But after a couple of these, I decided it was time to read another story from Eat My Shorts. Tasty collection of short and flash science fiction written by me. But I didn't decide which one I would read first, so let's go through the table of contents. I could always go with the first one. The first one I read was Zombie Sighting. I could go with the next one, Music Man. Yeah, let's do that. Music Man. Forgive my errors, mistakes, mispronunciations. I've had a few cream sodas already. How long is this story? Not too bad. Music Man by Jonathan Westbrook. The customer service lines at the Pineapple store were unbearably long, and they had become far worse since the new generation of music players became available. But Marcy endured. She reminded herself she was above the commonness of it. Marcy's feet were sore from standing in her 4-inch heels for an hour. Her shoulders ached from the weight of her Coach handbag, though she tried switching it from one side to the other and back again. What bothered hearing a strange noise. What bothered the socialite most was the inattentiveness of the Pineapple staff to her being there. In fact, she texted just about everyone she knew to complain about not being asked to move to the head of the line. But only her sister showed any amount of sympathy. More than once, the heiress to the Diamond King's throne almost left the line to go back home to the hills for a soothing, almond-scented aromatherapy bath. Normally, Marcy Douglas of the Douglas jewelry store chain would have had someone else, a trusted employee perhaps, or Gerald, her personal assistant, bring back the broken item. But since her new player was made especially for her, she thought it best to bring it in herself. She sighed again, louder this time, in an attempt to broadcast her frustration. By the time she reached the service counter, her patience had grown as thin as the contrived articles about her in the Inquirer, which she had sued time and again for their misquotes and downright lies, and by the by, she had won every time. Her family's money bought the best of everything, including lawyers. Marcy understood that having her name in the rags was good for business, but she couldn't turn a cheek against their libel. Even the paparazzi had become a nuisance of late, but that was all part of the swinging lifestyle she had grown accustomed to. Fortunately for her, her new music player standing beside her distracted everyone in the store and kept her from being molested for autographs and photos. When she stepped up for her long-awaited turn, she took off her larger-than-life gem-encrusted sunglasses and gave a feigned ruby red, as friendly as could be, smile. "Next," the technician stated without any cheer in his voice. It wasn't until after he looked up from his screen that he added with a renewed vim and vigor, "Oh, Miss Douglas, how may I help you today?" Marcy got right to the point. "My Music Man is broken. I need a new one." The technician gawked at Marcy in disbelief that such a public icon was in his store and had actually spoken to him. After a few moments of awkward silence, She turned away from him and his faded plastic yellow and green alligator-clipped nameplate, which read, "Hello, my name is Ted," next to the pineapple logo. His gaze followed hers to what he thought a gentleman beside her, but he soon realized it to be the new Gen 3 model, which he had only before seen in the store's catalog. "What seems to be the problem?" he asked with genuine interest as he came around the counter for a closer inspection. "He doesn't play any of my imported songs," Marcy pouted. "Well, let's see what we can do." Ted raised a hand toward the humanoid. The MP3 player opened its silicone mouth, but its jaw and lips didn't move. "You can't touch this. MC Hammer, 1990. Ted was startled. "His speakers work loud and clear. Okay, friend, play me that song." "Play me that song. Brantley Gilbert, 2009. Marcy's designer perfume told Ted that she had approached closer to the two of them. "See what I mean? All he does is quote song titles, but he won't play them." Ted knew the Gen 3 model ran on atomic batteries, which should last beyond the unit's lifetime. But the fact that he was standing there ruled out a problem with them, so he had just one diagnosis. "Have you tried rebooting it?" "You can't touch this. MC Hammer, 1990, the MP3 player reiterated. "No," she replied to Ted. "It won't let me." The Pineapple Store employee had never received any flow-down communications regarding this complication in the Gen 3 software, but he wasn't going to let a machine dictate his actions. He strode around to the player's backside and lifted his hand to the base of the unit's neck. "I wouldn't do that if I were..." It was too late. The music man spun with a blur, grabbed Ted by the wrist, raised his arm high into the air like they were performing a dance routine, and threw Ted with such speed that the technician somersaulted in the air before landing on his back. The player still had a hold of Ted's wrist as he placed his foot into Ted's armpit and pulled hard on his arm. Ted's shoulder was about to be dislocated when Marcy intervened. "Stop!" she cried over the gasps of the retreating crowd. The music man halted his action, but did not let go. "Stop! Spice Girls, 1998. Tim whimpered, and his breath was labored. "Let him go," Marcy ordered. "Let him go. Bob Marley and the Wailers, 1966. The player released the would-be invader and stood erect like nothing had happened. Marcy ran to Ted as best as she could in her heels, without messing up her salon hairdo or dropping her coach. "Are you okay?" She held out her delicate porcelain hand with manicured nails, but not low enough for Ted to reach it. Her form-fitting skirt restricted her from bending at the knees, lest she tear a seam. "I'm fine," he told her, though his body ached from head to toe from being tossed like a rag doll. Once he was up, he tried to straighten his disheveled clothes, but gave up after a failed attempt to smooth out his Kmart tie. He pointed his finger from the end of a straight arm like an arrow stretched across a bow. "You need to shut it down." "You can't touch this. MC Hammer, 1990. "I can't," Marcy exclaimed, but Ted wasn't listening to her. He went to face the music man, nose to nose, being careful not to touch him. "Why? Why can't I shut you down?" "She's hot. TOK, 2005. "What? Wait?" Ted was confused. "Who's hot?" "Marcy's song. Jackson C. Frank. Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene soundtrack, 2011. The diamond heiress's jaw dropped open wide enough to catch flies until she realized some onlookers were videoing the event on their Pi phones and quickly regained her composure. Marcy also realized that her new music player wasn't just reciting song titles. After all, he was trying to communicate. So she strode over to the artificial man. Ted offered to her, "Looks like you've got another fan." He stepped aside to let Marcy deal with the new discovery. She looked deeply into the music man's eyes for the very first time. They were light brown, with tiny specks of gold mixed in, and they looked back at her with an innocence she had never seen before in the men she normally ran with. "Do you have a name?" she inquired. "Mickey. Tony Basil, 1982, he replied. Marcy loved the name. It reminded her of the retro music during her university days when she used to dance to when she went clubbing, which was more often than the time she spent studying, and how she always wanted to meet someone so fine. "Do you really want to stay with me?" "Hopelessly devoted to you, Olivia Newton-John, 1978. Ted saw where this was headed. He knew he had an anomaly that the Pineapple execs would not only want to see and examine, but maybe they'd give him a bonus, or better yet, a promotion to store manager if he was able to deliver them. He needed to find a way to keep the unique Gen 3 there. "So what would you like to do, Miss Douglas? Would you like to trade it in for a different model?" "No, I'll keep Mickey just as she is," she replied. And they started out of the store arm in arm. She knew she had found something special too, only this time it didn't involve her parents' money, and she wasn't going to be trite and just give him away. Mickey turned back to Ted, who had followed them to the sliding door at the store's entrance. His lips parted. "Addicted to Love, Robert Palmer, 1985. The end. The idea of people actually, this is the author's note by me. You can find author's notes at the end of every story in Eat My Shorts. Think of it as a dessert to your entree. The idea of people actually being fanatic over someone like Marcy Douglas boggles my mind. Those fanatics seem to be like robots or lemmings following the latest trend. This short was written just after I had purchased an iPad. Sometimes I can be a lemming too, I guess, if you care to think of me in that way for owning such a peripheral, but I do love my gadgets. And I was thrilled with it. It made me wonder what technology will be like in another 30 or 40 years. Will robots become as common for everyone to own as tablets? I imagined a music player in the future taking on the form of a companion of sorts, like a sentient music man. And with that, I will say goodbye. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give a share. Oh, I just dropped my book. Please give a share, leave a comment. Tell everyone to go run out and buy this book. Available on Amazon.com or your local Barnes & Nobles. Okay? Have a good day. Bye-bye. And enjoy your cream sodas.